Hello, friends, and welcome to the PowHERful Podcast. I'm your host, AJ McCord. In this podcast, we introduce you to powerful women who are changing the game in and outside of their field of play. These are women's stories, women who happen to be doing things that many of us can only dream of, but the lessons and inspiration they share is universal. What's up, y'all? It's AJ McCord, and welcome back to the PowHERful Podcast. I am thrilled with this week's guest because she is a veteran of the World Surf League's Championship Tour. She is a part of this generation that is so key right now in women's surfing because this sport is on the rise. And literally every time the women hit the water, ceilings are getting shattered. But Lakey Peterson has been a part of women's surfing before it became what it is right now. And in this episode, she shares a lot about resilience and gratitude and how to be a part of a trailblazing generation and the perspective that she keeps throughout this entire journey. So it's such a fun conversation. We laugh a lot. There's a little bit of emotion. And so I hope you enjoy this one because Lakey is a really special individual and an incredible surfer. And I just can't wait for y'all to hear this conversation. Thanks for being here. Welcome back to the PowHERful Podcast. She is one of the veteran surfers on the WSL Championship Tour. She has 6 event wins. She's finished top 3 in the world for female surfers, not once, but twice. And she's from Santa Barbara, California, so just up the coast from where I'm from. And personally, I have seen this girl go beast mode more than a time or two in my years of covering the World Surf League. Welcome, Lakey Peterson, to the PowHERful Podcast.
Thank you, AJ. Stoked to be here, finally.
Dude, I'm so stoked. I know. We've been trying to make this happen for really as long as the podcast has been in existence. You were one of the surfers. We just connected so quickly when I started working for the World Surf League, and it's so fun. I'm going to pop the picture up here because not only, I don't fangirl over many athletes anymore because you're just around them and you realize how human every single one of you are, and it's one of my favorite things. However, College AJ was fangirling over Lakey Peterson because you were riding for Nike and you were a part of the Nike Women's Half Marathon that I was running with my mom. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, it's Lakey Peterson. It's Lakey Peterson. And then when I first saw you at Pipe a few years ago, I was like, you're not going to remember this, but I remember this. So I've been a fan of Lakey for a long time.
That is actually crazy. I forgot you even told me that at Pipe too. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
That is wild. That half marathon. I'll never do another one. That was it for me.
Same. So. She's not a runner. My knees are too bad. My back is too bad. I'm over it. But at the time, it was so fun. And the Nike women's race, rundown memory lane, was so epic because instead of a trophy at the end, you got a Tiffany's necklace handed to you by a fireman in a tuxedo.
Yeah, it was pretty sick.
Why?
Nike just knows.
They really do.
They just know how to make everyone feel cool. It's so crazy.
Really
They're just good at everything.
I know. It's wild. So anyway, I've been a fan of Lakey Peterson much longer than I've been a friend of Lakey Peterson. So I'm so excited to have you on the podcast because I think there's so many places that we could start with just introing a little bit about who you are. But I want to start with just an overview of your career. So I mentioned some of the highlights, 6 event wins. You've had a couple of top 3 finishes in the world, but you've been a part of the best group of female surfers on the planet for more than a decade. So tell me a little bit about how you got into surfing in general. I know you're from Santa Barbara, but I understand it was another continent where you fell in love with the sport.
Yeah, you do your research. You're good. Yeah, I mean, obviously, growing up in Santa Barbara and growing up just in California in general, I loved the ocean and I was a water baby and whatnot. But I definitely never came from a surfing family or surfing background. I think a lot of surfers on the tour, especially my generation, it was if your family did it or your parents did it, that's how everyone kind of got started. And I was fully opposite of that. We played tennis and went to track. It was nothing to do with professional surfing. So anyways, when I was 5, my family took a trip. My mom was definitely thinking before the time. So we did a trip around the world as a family. Before that was a cool thing to do. And we spent a month in Manly Beach, Australia. And we started doing the local little Manly surf school down there. And so that's where I learned to surf, just getting pushed in on the Doyle. I still remember my teacher's name there was Tom. And funnily enough, I actually married an Australian. His name is
wait a
Tom.
minute.
Different Tom.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. But some ties there. So, yeah, but that's really like where it started for me and where I just fell in love with it. And it was just so pure. Like it was just going down to the surf school with my brother every morning, and we would go every single day, just zinc on the face, and we wouldn't get out until we had to. So, it was a very natural way to fall in love with surfing, and I think that's really cool. Like it was just all so organic from the beginning for me.
And you touched on the other sports you played. There was an interview that you did with Connor Coffin, who was another professional surfer for a really long time on the tour, and he was like, growing up with Lakey, this girl was more competitive and better at more sports than all of us. She was just like a fierce fighter on the playground from elementary school on. Where do you think that came from?
I mean, I don't know. I think a little bit just like we all have our natural God-given gifts. And for me, just sporting ability has been that thing. Definitely like I'm an athlete and I was blessed with a body that's coordinated. So that's where I've always really thrived. I certainly never thrived like in the school classroom doing reading hour. But I did thrive on the tennis court or on the blacktop or whatever it was, So I don't know. I just always loved it. And I think because I was good at sports, obviously I loved it, but I just enjoyed competing, enjoyed doing all the different types of sports growing up, whether it was like tennis or flag football. I always played flag football. I was the only girl on the team. The boys hated me, but I loved it. And I would just like run back and forth, all the way to the end zone. So I don't know, and I kudos to my parents for just like never making me feel like I had to be in a certain box. Like they just let me do the sports I wanted to do and what I wanted to try. They were in full support. So I think that was really special. And then when surfing came along, it was like I said, it was just this organic, natural progression. And I don't know, I just fell in love with it, and it was just felt like I was good at it, and the stars sort of aligned, and here I am.
So you get back from Australia, you're like, okay, this was a very fun vacation, but like, I'm serious about this. How did you start entering competitions? And how old were you when you started actually competing?
Yeah, I mean, we got home and I was 6, so like I wasn't, I think I was like, I don't know if I'm serious about this, but this is fun. I want to keep doing it when I get home. And I think my mom and dad saw that too, like, wow, she really loves this. But I was really into competitive tennis at that time, actually, at that age, and I was doing like tournaments around the coast and around California. And then more so, I just stuck with it. My neighbor across the street, his dad surfed. So when I got home from that trip after school, they would take me down to like our little local point break by our house and take me surfing, because my parents didn't surf that much, like I said. And so my mom now surfs, and she's actually a great surfer now, but at the time she didn't that much. So that's how I started surfing at home. And then I was like, Mom, I want to do like this local Rincon Classic event, which is like this event they have once a year at Rincon. There was only a boys division at the time, so they signed me up for that. I was like in the little Manahuni division, and I think I won it, or I did well. I made the final or whatever. And then from there, then I was about like 10 years old, and that's when I signed up for NSSAs up and down the coast, and then did those for like 4 years. And then that's really when things like started. When I was like 12 years old, I was into it, all in on the NSSAs, and then I won the nationals when I was 14, which was like a huge turning point. That's when I got sponsored by Nike, and we made this women's surf film. So I felt like it was all like pretty quick happening, honestly, from doing some little local events all the way to making the tour. I qualified, I was 17. So like from 12 to 17, it just was like boom, boom, boom. So yeah.
And it's been so cool. So you make your debut in the tour in 2017. Walk me through how you would describe, like, what was it like to compete on the women's tour in 2017? Or, yeah, 2017.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was 2011. Sorry, where did I get 2017?
Yeah, because I was 17.
That was
it.
I understand. 2011.
2011. So I qualified 2011. I think my first rookie year was 2012. So that was my first year on tour, and I was 17 at the time. And it was polarizingly different than the tour we have now, like for multiple reasons. One just being the schedule we had. Like I think we only had 6 events back then. That was our whole year, and the events weren't all with the guys. Like we had our own separate events from the boys. We had like maybe one or two events that were scheduled with them, but other than that, they were like their own thing at way worse waves. And yeah, it was obviously like Sofia Volanovic was on the tour then, Savannah Lima, Steph was there, Chris was there. They were all, I mean, they were a little bit before me in terms of their time. Steph like a fair bit before me, but then Carissa and Coco and Malia, all of them were like 3 years ahead of me, sort of thing. So yeah, it was different in the sense of the tour and the waves we had, and then also obviously the talent pool in my generation was pretty stacked. It was really, really good, but things have progressed even more since then. Obviously, here we are like 13 years later. It's done like a 180 in terms of the progression of everything. So, and then also prize money. Like it wasn't really a legitimate career path back in the day, and now it fully is. And I think through my generation and my younger years on tour, that really started. Like I really felt the shift. I feel lucky I was on tour before the women had equal prize money all the way to now, and even like sponsorship dollars. Because I remember my first event I won, it was the U.S. Open 2012, and I won $15,000 to win. And Brett Simpson, he won the boys, and I remember looking over and his check was like for $100,000, and I was like, whoa, like that's a really big difference. I was thankful, but I was like, whoa, and it's so cool that I think that I was on tour then and I'm on tour now, and I like really can appreciate that shift and the recognition we get now, and obviously the equal pay, and like what a difference that makes for us to be able to do what we do. And I'm, the younger girls, I'm like, you have no idea how hard this used to be, it's way different. But it's been cool to be able to see it come so far, like on the women's side. I've felt the whole shift. I've been here the whole time.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I am so excited to talk with you about, because we were chatting about it a little bit before, but I really consider you a part of a critical generation in women's surfing, because you have been a part of the years where women's surfing had fewer events at worse waves with way less money and way less legitimacy, if you will, in terms of prize money, in terms of broadcast rights, in terms of coverage, everything. But now you're a part of this generation too. Like you are hanging, you are competing, winning in the same generation as well. That is a part of women charging the biggest, gnarliest waves that they were kept out of for the longest time because it was deemed too risky, right? Like it was all of a few years ago until the women had a contest at Teahopo because it was deemed too dangerous. So as a part of that bridge generation of female surfing, you said you were sort of grateful to be a part of those first few years on tour. Why do you feel like you have that gratitude instead of another emotion, I guess?
I think just because I've like felt it and seen it, the whole change, from now until then, like how far women's surfing has come since my first few years on tour is astronomical in the best way possible for the girls. And I think I'm just grateful because I know what it was like before we had all the opportunities that we have now, or the prize money that we have now, or the sponsors we can get now. The industry is still in a tough place and hard, but like it is so different. And I feel like too, back on when I first got on tour, it was the women's tour was a little bit looked at like, oh, we just put them out when the waves get bad, or like they're kind of a little bit of a sideshow, or like they never would have us at events with the boys because whatever, it would take up a bit too much time. So to see it now where obviously the men's tour is absolutely incredible. I'm such a fan, and the boys are insanely good, and it's so fun to watch. But I honestly feel like the women's tour right now at this moment in time is like almost like the tour to watch right now at moments. It's so exciting. There's so many surf fans, boys, girls, all over wanting to watch the girls, and I guess it just never used to feel like that. So I'm just grateful to like see that positive change. And I don't know if I would be that grateful if it was the norm, although I'm very happy it's now the norm for the younger girls. But I think I just was really able to like feel it from the bad days to the good days, the glory years.
Well, I love the perspective there because I think, similarly, right? Like I can look at sports broadcasting and I can see how far it's come, because when I first started, I wanted to be a broadcaster when I was 16 years old. I competed in competitive gymnastics. That kind of, fizzled out for me because of back injuries and fear and all this stuff. But I always knew that I wanted to be in sports. And it was so crazy because when I first started, you could look around and there would be a scrum of 20 reporters and there'd be one woman. And you'd be at a
Yeah.
women's basketball game covering it, and you'd be the only one because women's sports didn't get the coverage then. And so it's always interesting because I feel like there's oftentimes different perspectives you can take when you're a part of the generation that is moving it forward, right? You can view it as, dang, I wish that I had that, right? Like I wish
Yeah.
that I had gotten the benefit of all this hard work earlier. Or you can say, no, I'm really actually stoked to be leaving this place better than I found it, to be a part of the generation that is making the change. And I think it
Yeah.
says a lot about you as a person to say that that is the attitude that you're taking, because you could see some of the women who are competing right now and go, dang, yeah, that frick, 15,000 versus 100 grand, that would have made a massive difference, when I was
Yeah.
in my late teens, early 20s. But dive into a little bit more for people who aren't as familiar with surfing about the like worst waves and the women's tour combining, because one of the things that I love about surfing is that the women travel, especially now since I've been covering it. You guys all travel together. I know that that's been
Mhm.
the case since long before the tours combined, but you guys have such a voice in the way the sport is changing. Like the athletes competing now have a voice in how things are getting shaped, when the competition goes, when it doesn't, and like what is becoming history in women's surfing. So take us inside sort of the locker room, if you will, of what it's been like to be one of those voices in the last, 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, I mean it's been amazing just to feel like we have a voice that will be, listened to or wants to be listened to by people and by an organization. I think for a long time, even the men, like it just sort of felt like things were getting run this way, and that's what was happening. So I feel like I don't know. I feel like for the girls, and what to backtrack a little bit, what I mean by, my first few years on tour and being kind of at worse waves than the men, like we used to have, like I said, just 6 events, and which is now we have 10 um, minimum. And our event in Europe was in June, which is like the worst time of year for Europe. It's the middle of summer, so they don't get swell. And it was in Biarritz for like the longboard, which amazing place, sick for longboarding, but like we're like a shortboard women's performance tour. So like I still remember we went one time and they had to cancel the contest because it didn't break for 10 days. They could not run the event. It was the only time that's ever happened. They literally couldn't run it. And then we had US Open, which obviously is like a classic event, but kind of brutal. We did always have Snapper Rocks, which was the
Mhm.
pride and joy, and we'd start there with the men, which was cool. But yeah, so anyways, we just didn't have like this super complete tour that I think showed like you need good waves to do good surfing. Like the better the
Right.
waves, the better the show. And I think that really proves too now with the women going to places like Chopu and Pipe that are scary and gnarly, but every time we've gone, it's like the biggest highlight reel ever for women surfing, and people are like, wow, this is insane. The girls are ripping in it. And not to say we don't need more time, and there's still a long way to go and way more progression. Like, not every heat's perfect, or, all the girls are sort of at different levels, but having these better waves between there and also just better high performance waves on tour that we have too, it's like, yeah, the girls can surf really well, and we're getting the chance to really show that, where before I felt like we just never had that many chances to show that, and
Yeah.
you need that. So that's been one thing. And then just, yeah, I mean, obviously working with the WSL, and I've seen it all the way back since, when it was the ASP, and then it got bought, and different CEOs, like the whole way through. And yeah, I mean, I think being on tour for as long as I have now, like I'm not afraid to share my opinion with the organization or people who want to hear my opinion. Like I will always talk on behalf of the girls or say what I think would be best for the women's tour. And it's cool. Like a lot of the girls on tour that are younger will text me like, hey, what do you think about this? Or could you say that? Or, they're maybe a little bit scared to say it, but I will say it. And I think that just comes with age and being there. And maybe a little confidence, but it's also really cool to be in that position of like, hey, they trust me to maybe represent
Mm.
not represent them, but be a voice for the women's tour to the WSL or, whoever it is. And that's been great. I think the camaraderie on the tour for the ladies is really cool. We're all great friends. I think there's a lot of respect for everyone there. And yeah, I definitely do my best to try and, I guess, just get the girls what they deserve.
Well, and it's so cool too, because I think that one of the most impressive things to me about the generation that you are a part of in women's surfing is that not only are you, like I said, competing, but you've had to learn these waves while you've been competing, right? Because I remember
Yeah.
Carissa, right, being from Hawaii,
hmm
Olympic gold medalist, 5-time world title holder. She
hmm
didn't grow up surfing at Pipeline because it wasn't a part
Yeah.
of the women's tour. So why would you go practice at something that
Yeah.
you are not going to get a chance to compete at? How did you maintain your level of excellence while these waves of consequence are getting added to the tour?
Yeah, it's honestly a really great question no one's really asked me before. I think it's been like the most challenging part of my career, probably, honestly, is having to adapt at a later stage in my career rather than from the beginning. I think because the waves are so scary and so hard, and there's so much consequence, like it's really really gnarly. And yeah, I never used to go to the North Shore and paddle out a pipe ever, ever, ever. I wouldn't even think about it. Like I'd go surf, maybe Sunset and Haleiwa because it was sort of relatable to the tour, but never would I do that. And so now having to be like, okay, we're going to pipe, and the girls are getting better every year, which is so cool. But also like I need to be able to go out there and position myself and try and catch a good wave and stay with it with the pack here. I think personally has definitely been such a challenge because waves of consequence have never been my thing either. Like I don't love big waves. I don't love scary waves. Like I've never been that person that like really wants to go chase that. So there's that side of just personally being like, gosh, this is super scary and hard. And then the side of like, having that motivation to go do it, because really to go practice a pipe or to go take a trip to Chopes, like outside of the event, it's not the most fun thing in the world, but also it has like been the most rewarding thing to maybe get some waves I never thought I would ever get or get the chance to even try. So super challenging mentally for me to, have to learn these waves like halfway through my career rather than
Yeah.
just as a rookie learning them, before you're even on tour and just kind of knowing what to expect. Yeah.
And I feel like it's important for people to understand that it's not like you can just be like, okay, I understand that now Pipeline is a part of the women's tour, Chopes is a part of the women's tour, Cloudbreak. I'm going to go practice at these
Mhm.
waves and I'm going to be guaranteed to get my waves and get my practice in. No, you are out there and you're still battling 100 people. Like I remember talking to Katie Simmers this year at
Mhm.
Pipeline, and she's like, I didn't catch a wave in the free surfs
Yeah.
leading up to it
Yeah.
because it's crazy to try and catch a wave. And there's all these rules of etiquette and all this stuff. So in addition to it being scary, in addition to it being later in your career, you've also had to try and learn it with the general public being out there
Yeah.
and crowding your space,
Yeah.
which we're going to get to your viral video in a minute because that absolutely cracked me up 2 weeks ago. I'm glad you're safe. But how would you describe what it feels like to try and get waves, get time, get experience at these waves?
It's such a good question. It's really hard. I remember the first year we were going to pipe and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the North Shore super early, and like I've never even paddled out there, so let's just let's just see how this goes. And I paddle out, and I remember Shane Dorian told me actually, he's like, hey, if you just don't even catch a wave out here, like just realize that's happening to like 90% of the people out here, and just learn from where you're sitting and look at where the best guys are taking off and try and see like, oh, that was a good wave, that was a bad wave. Like, don't even get frustrated if you don't catch a wave, like literally at all. And it was such good advice because obviously it's frustrating to not catch a wave, and also you're scared. So like maybe even if you do have the chance to catch a wave, especially in those beginning stages, you're like, oh, I'm not really in the right position to go on this. Like there's a lot of factors to it, where you're like, oh, I don't want to just go on a closeout, or I don't want to go where I don't feel comfortable taking off or whatever. So a lot of times now, honestly, I mean, now I paddle out obviously with the intention to ride a few waves, but still, there's so many days I paddle out there and I've just paddled back in, but like 2 hours later, but I'm just continuously observing or paddling over here, sitting in a little further, like back door, whatever, and there's always just something to learn. But it's true. I mean, I think for a lot of the girls, like in our heats is when you're getting the most waves and learning the most. Even I just came from an event in Tahiti and I was just in my heat. I was just finally starting to figure it out because I finally could catch a wave in my second heat. And I was like, I got one decent wave, but I felt like I just needed one more heat to like ride a few more waves and I was there. But it's definitely, yeah, it's a tricky part about surfing and especially in those waves of consequence. But it's, I don't know, you just got to be open-minded and realize like everyone feels the same way. It's not just you.
Surfing is such a hilarious like mental battle because I don't paddle out at Pipeline or Chopes, nor do I have any intention to ever. However, even at my local break, right, when I paddle out at Cardiff Reef or in San Alejo or wherever in Encinitas, and I go out there and I start sitting there and maybe I've missed a wave or maybe it's a little bigger, maybe it's a little steeper. And all of a sudden I'm in my head and I'm like, who the frick cares? But you see everybody else catching these waves and you're like, wait a minute, am I doing something wrong? Like, am I scared of something that I shouldn't be? How do you're now, you're a veteran on tour. You're one of the most mentally tough competitors I've ever gotten a chance to cover. How did you develop?
No.
Girl, yes. And I have proof to back up my statement. But how did you develop that ability? How did you develop the ability to talk to yourself in a heat, to talk to yourself in a free surf, to become that capable mentally?
Oh gosh. I mean, it's good that I come across that way. I don't know. I'm pretty sensitive little cookie that can crumble, but I think, like the longer you do something, I've done this for a long time now, you go through like a heartbreak and triumph and everything in between within the sport along the way. And the more you go through, the more you learn to just grow through things. And I think that just gives you perspective and it makes you realize how important the mindset is. And I think for any sport, the mental side of it is like 50% of it. Honestly, it is ridiculous how much of it matters. But I think in surfing especially, like it's honestly probably like 70% of it. There's so many different variables in our sport, from the judging to the conditions to the waves to whatever else could happen that's out of your control. So there's such an element of like learning to just surrender to those things of like, you could be the best surfer there and be surfing better than everyone and lose first heat. Like probably will, honestly. Or you could go in feeling like, God, I'm just off. My boards are off, this or that. But then like a couple things go your way in a heat and then all of a sudden you win the event and you're like, oh, that was so weird, So I think to answer your question, the mental side of it and just having some mental toughness is just rolling with the good and the bad. And that's anything in life, but you're going to have ruts that you go through and then you're going to have times where you're rolling and just, learning from the tough times. And that can get really monotonous and really hard and really tricky to continually trust the process when it feels like it just keeps, not working. And obviously you can tweak stuff and learn from it and try and get better. But I just think that if you can, just keep knocking at the door, eventually it'll open, but you got to keep knocking at it. You can't turn around. And that's what's hard. And a lot of times really right when you feel like I cannot like do this one more time, I'm going to lose it. Like if I lose one more heat, I don't want to do this. It's too hard. It's too painful. Usually like right when you're at that breaking point is when you're going to get that breakthrough. I've learned too. So it's just keep knocking and have perspective. Like it's surfing. We're living this beautiful life and we're healthy. And you know what I mean? I think a lot of times you got to just take a step back and go, okay, I'm bummed and I'm heartbroken and I'm allowed to be because this has been a tough year. That was a hard event and we all try so hard and it's not fun to lose. Of course, like all those feelings are so valid, but also, geez, like I have so much in my life and you got to just big picture it. That always helps me if I can just like zoom out,
So take me back to Margaret River this year because I feel like when we got to Margaret River, you had been knocking for a long time. This season had not started the way that you thought it was going to. You missed the cut in 2024. You get the wild card this year, and you had a mountain to climb, Lakey, to
Yeah.
make the cut. And then heat by heat, I kid you not, y'all, I wish that I could I wish I could show you what I'm seeing as I replay that day in Western Australia,
uh,
because you went into another mode, and it wasn't like a hell hath no fury, I'm going at all costs. It was so calculated. It was so confident. And it was one
mm,
of those moments that I was like, damn, this girl knows exactly what she wants. She's got the fire, she's got the confidence. And you climbed all the way up the rankings. You didn't just qualify for 2026, you made the back half of the tour. How did you, like, where did that come from that day? And was that moment one of those moments that you'd been knocking and going, I don't know if I can do this again?
oh, thank you. That's nice of you to say. I mean, yeah, it was definitely like one of those moments like, I don't know if I can do this again. I mean, I've been through a lot of amazing times in my career, and I'm really thankful to have had incredible success at what I do, but I've also like been through some serious heartbreak in surfing. And I definitely, coming into Mart River, was like, okay, I just don't think this is how my story here ends. Like,
Mm.
I just don't think that in my head. I was like, everyone on this tour is so good and deserves to be a champion and be on tour, every single girl. But in my head, I was just like, I know like I'm good enough to be here, and I know I'm good enough to go for world titles. Like, I knew it. And sometimes I don't believe that, and it's hard to find that confidence. For me, I've always struggled to like really be super confident in myself. But I guess I got to Mart River, and I got pushed into such a corner of like, you have to perform or like this is done. And the amount of pressure, and my husband Tom always is like, gosh, you do so good under pressure. Like, whether it's like, whether it's like playing knockout in the backyard or whatever, like if I have a little pressure, I'm like, ooh, okay, this is me. And so, anyways, that was a side anecdote. But I definitely think being in that position of like, this is it. You either do it or you not do it. It was so clear. Like, you're either
Mm.
making the finals or semifinals of this event, or you're like, not this year off tour. This is done. It was just sort of, I just got in this zone like the whole week. And don't get me wrong, I mean, there was a lot of tears that whole week. Like, the waiting period went as long as it possibly could. By the end, I was like, just get this thing over with. Like,
Throw us
it's
out there,
like,
whatever it is. I want to
yes,
surf it.
yes. It was just like, oh my gosh, another lady to think about it. Oh my gosh, it was just
Girl,
like a little bit torturous.
yeah.
Yeah, but on the day, I don't know. I just like, before my heat with Tyler Wright, I was like, okay, this is going to be a hard heat. You're going to need 16 points. I'll never forget, in my head, I was like, you're going to need 16 points to beat her, I think. I think it's going to be 2/8 or better. And I like did this little visualization before I paddled out, and I was just like, okay, I'm doing it. And even before the heat, Tom was like, are you good? Do you need to like calm down? I was like, nope, I don't need to calm down. Like, I am so fired up right now. He was like, okay.
Get out of my way,
And
honey.
yeah, I was like, move. Yeah, I got like almost not at him, but at the situation. I was almost angry. Like, I was mad I was in that position. I was mad I hadn't succeeded, and I was just like, I'm gonna go take it. And also, things just fell into place. Like, there's a little bit of luck with everything too. So I think I got a bit lucky with the rhythm of the waves and things like that. But yeah, I just hunkered down, and I just believed in myself, and I was just like, okay, this is it. You're doing it or you're not. So just go out, guns blazing. And it worked. I just kept rolling.
It was so incredible to watch. And I think for me, as a fan of surfing, I was so stoked, because I think there's always that question, right? You made your CT debut in 2011, right? You have been a part of this tour for so long, and I feel like every year your generation of athletes gets asked, okay, so how are you feeling? Like, what's
Yeah.
next? You know, like Joanne
Yeah.
DeFay is about to have her baby. Carissa just had her baby. Like, we're just in that stage where like it feels like that's a question. And I remember as a surf fan being like, yes, we get Lakey Peterson again, because
Aw.
you made it through that. And now not only did you compete the back half of this year, but you're into the CT again in 2026, which is going to be
Mhm.
almost back to, in some ways, a tour that the women really never had, because you guys are going to
Yeah.
combine, you're combining tours with the men. You're starting in April in Australia, ending at Pipeline in December.
Yeah.
How fired up are you right now to be a competitive surfer?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's the schedule next year is so awesome. I think going back to kind of this old system of ditching the final five and the cuts not as weird. And so there's the tour next year definitely was like a cherry dangling, like a little carrot, in front of me too. I was just like, gosh, I want that opportunity next year and the rest obviously this year. So I'm certainly fired up. And it's funny, you mentioned like Joanne's having a baby and Chris has just had her baby. And, a lot of girls from my generation, like we're married. I want kids. Like, and we hit 30 and it feels like everyone's just like, okay, so, so when are you done surfing? And it's just like, hey, like I'm still so, I don't know. It's just funny. It's this narrative that is just like, you have to be done at this age or, and that's amazing. Like, I want to have kids one day, and I'm excited for the next chapter of my life after surfing one day for sure. But I do think it's funny the moment you're not like 18, you're just old on tour, and there's still so much to give for me and all the other girls kind of my generation, I think. So I'm excited for next year. I think it'll be great, and I just feel I don't know. I just feel like I have such awesome friends on tour. I feel like the girls on tour are so rad, and we're all so close and respectful of each other. And yeah, I'm just having so much fun with it right now that I can't really see myself doing anything else for the time being. So yeah, I'm excited for it for sure.
I love that. One of your friends on tour that we have to talk about, because when you two get together, it is like the sassiest giggle fest ever. You and
Oh
Molly
my
Picklum are two of my favorite. It's like there's like these little duos, right, that like develop. And it is so fun to watch y'all interact. I know Molly has stayed at your house in San Clemente a few
yeah.
times when she was competing for the Final Five. We just saw her and Katie go head to head on a massive day at Tehopo.
Mm.
Can you contextualize for people how important that day and having Molly and Katie in the water for that size of wave, at that wave, can you contextualize what that meant for surfing?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was an amazing final, and honestly, it was an amazing whole contest for the ladies. And Molly in particular, I feel like she when she won the other day, I texted her and I was like, "Wow, I think you just surfed like a perfect event. Like I think every single wave was perfect. It was incredible to watch actually, and just obviously an ode to like the time she spent there and the effort at that wave that she's really put in. That doesn't come with like 1,000 trillion wipeouts and scary moments that she's already put herself through to be able to do that and perform like that. And then also just having Katie, who like it feels like the Molly Katie rivalry is just growing and growing and growing. You can see it, even from my perspective, like it's cool to see, oh wow, these girls are going to battle so hard their whole for the next 11 years, and it's going to be insane. And each of them kind of have a different strength, which I think is really cool too. They're both willing to send it and charge, as you saw, in this beautiful display of the finals. I think obviously Molly surfed an insanely good final and got just her technique is incredible. I think it's by far the best in the world for a woman in terms of backside barrel riding. And Katie as well. And I was bummed Katie didn't like make a wave because I feel like her
Yeah.
scores did not reflect just the courage and the positioning and the technique that she also has. But geez, it was so cool to watch. And again, I think like just having these moments for the ladies, we keep showing up and doing it, and it's so cool. Like it's really cool to watch, and I'm really proud of both of them. Honestly, I feel like a mom, but it's like it's really scary and it's hard to do that, and it's hard to fight for your spot in the lineup, and so to see the girls doing it, like even for me, I'm like, wow, okay, like I'm inspired by them in a huge way. And so it's just, yeah, it's really cool. I'm super stoked for Molly. She definitely was, wow, like a very deserving champion. Yeah.
And I also feel like I'm so glad you called out Katie, because if you look at the box score, the heat score from that
Hmm.
event, from that finals, you'd be like, wow, Molly like full on ran away with it, which in essence she did. But that's like
Yeah.
the difference between excellent and a two in
Yeah.
that kind of wave at shows. It's just
Yeah.
it's so small. And to me, I will not forget the image of Katie duck diving, a freaking monster, after she got worked. And I feel
Yeah.
like in some ways, seeing the women handle that is almost as important in some ways as seeing them crush the barrels, because
Hmm.
that's part of what kept women out of these lineups for so long, right? Is like, okay, cool, if you make it, then you make the barrel and the takeout, it's fine.
Yeah.
But it's important to show that, yeah, no, I can handle the beating too. Like, I can
Yeah.
handle what comes with earning your stripes at a wave. And so that's why, even though Katie's scores obviously is not what she wanted to do at all, it was important, I felt like, to see both of them go out there, give it absolutely everything they had, and take what the ocean threw at them.
For sure, yeah, I couldn't agree more. And also, just getting to a place of being that good at a wave like that doesn't come without having those beatings. Like, you can't really avoid it. If you're gonna get as good as Molly and Katie are at like tube riding at pipe and at chopes, I mean, they're certainly better than me at those waves. And the only way to get there is by taking those beatings, and it sucks and it's scary and it's exhausting and it hurts and all the things, but the girls are doing it. And I think too, like, there's such a level of like, wow, okay, she did it, I can do it. But it just takes those first few to do it and then realize, okay, all right, like, I guess we're doing it, but it's inspiring to see, and it's definitely, yeah, it's just really cool. Like, it's just cool to see the girls getting what they deserve, and to just see the positive response is amazing.
I gotta ask for your finals prediction. What do you think
Mm.
at Cloudbreak, Molly in particular? Why do you think that wave brings out such a dangerous side of Molly Picklum surfing?
I mean, Molly, obviously, as we've all seen, is pretty fearless, pretty like she's gonna send it and do whatever she has to do to get the craziest wave you've ever seen out there. But also, I think the thing with Molly for somewhere like Cloudbreak is a pretty hard wave. It's a perfect, beautiful, one of the best waves in the world, but it's really long, and its positioning's hard. It's very different than like choke or pipe. You kind of just can sit in a spot. It's very mechanical, like you pull and you're done, and that's the wave. Cloudbreak is harder, and I think where you're sitting and how to read the wave, I think Molly's really good at that. I think she's been super good at her decision making this whole year, which is why she's been so consistently like making finals, especially in the back half of the year. So I feel like she just clicked in, and especially when you go to a wave like Cloudbreak, that's perfect but hard, tricky. I feel like she's just not going to make that many mistakes. But
Hmm.
I can just see it being a Molly at Katie. I think Katie's so gnarly on her backhand, and I think that's gonna be the final again, and it's gonna be exciting.
Oh, it's going to be so exciting. I cannot wait to watch it. I think this generation of women surfers, you included in that, like the women on tour right here, right now, are so important for every
Mm,
single generation that they are a part of. You, Tati, Joanne, you're important because of what you have been through and what you have helped push forward. Katie, Molly, Betty Lou, they are important because of the example that they're setting for the 10-year-old, the 11-year-old, the Miss Teahopo who competed at 12 at Chopes, right? Like, they're
yes,
important
yes,
because now the next generation they're not going to know a world where women don't belong in those lineups.
yeah,
They're not going to know a world where they don't go to Hawaii and say, well, of course I'm going to paddle out at pipe because it's a part of the tour and I want to be a world champ someday. So it's just an honor
totally.
to cover surfing right here, right now, because I just feel like I'm so excited every time you guys hit the water, because I know something crazy is going to happen. You guys are pushing the envelope every time you hit the water, and it's epic to be a part of. I cannot wait to see you in 2026 with the revamped tour starting in
Yeah.
Oz, little baby cut in, September, October, whatever that is, with 3 events and then back at Pipe. I just think it's going to be sick, and I'm just, yeah, I'm so grateful that you are bringing your best self to tour even when it feels hard. I just, you show up and it you can feel it.
Oh, thank you,
So,
AJ.
yeah,
Appreciate that.
girl.
Well, we love having you there. We love having you cover us in our post-heat interviews and TikToks. You're the best. It's actually
Yeah,
so
just you wait.
refreshing. You better have
Just
some
you
good
wait.
ones for this coming year. But
Girl,
no, it's
I
gonna be
got a
fun.
note tab on my phone. It's gonna be
Yes.
great. We're gonna have so much fun. Okay, before we let you go here, we're gonna switch to our powered up segment. This is where I ask you three kind of off the cuff questions of things that keep you powered up for your sport. So the first one is, how many layers of wax do you need to have on your board to feel comfortable?
Hmm. Um, well, starting from no layers of wax, you need Oh, at least three. I think you need the base coat layer, and then your first surf on top of the base coat, and then the next coat. So like, does that make sense? So
Yep,
three,
yep.
one base coat, one regular wax, surf it, and then one more after that. Then I feel like you're like, okay, the first surf is sometimes still a little slippery when there's only two.
Are you somebody who waxes up like the same way every single time before a heat?
No, I'm not that weird with that. Mm-mm. No,
Okay.
I don't. I mean, I wax my board well before heat. Of course, I wax my board every time, but I'm not like got some
Some
certain way I
design.
do it.
Yeah.
No, I just check it on there. I am a
Three
little
X's this way.
superstitious. Yes,
Oh,
but I'm not superstitious with that. Not with the wax.
okay. Well, we're gonna pivot then. What is the one superstition that keeps you powered up in the middle of a competition?
It depends. Superstition will change. So it's like if a song is working or a wetsuit. One time I had this red bikini. I wore that thing for like freaking 5 years straight. That bikini was just, it was rolling. I don't know where it went. It could be in a
Oh
museum
no.
now. But
We gotta
I know
find
we need
it.
back. Yes, we do. We do. But just stuff like that. Like, okay, this like obviously if a certain board's working, but that's more just realistic. But yeah, like an outfit or whatever. If there's like something working, or sometimes I'll just keep making the same. I remember at Bell's this year, I had a good heat, and I had spaghetti bolognese the night before, and I was like, I don't want to have spaghetti bolognese again, but I'm gonna do it again. And then I won another heat, and I was like, dang it,
Shoot.
I don't want spaghetti bolognese again. Anyways, stuff like that.
So we got to be really careful with our preheat meals because it might
Yes.
become every single night.
Yes, you had to choose wisely.
That's fantastic. Okay, and then the last question for this segment is: you guys travel all the time and anywhere in the world, right? Like it took what 40 plus hours to get to J Bay. It takes right around the same
Oh
time
yeah.
to get to Abu Dhabi. Probably 3 or 4 events at least a year. You're traveling close to 2 days in order to get there.
hmm
What is the travel hack that you have developed that you cannot live without for these long haul flights? I'm asking I'm not asking for a friend. I'm asking for me.
Personal. Geez, I don't know if I have one. Do your best to save miles to get the occasional upgrade. Uh, a non-negotiable for sure is like super good Bose noise cancelers. Absolute non-negotiable. What else is a good travel hack? Honestly, I just I just do it. I don't even know. I don't have that much stuff with me. I just get back there. I'm in the back of the bus and I just put the headphones on and I just go. I don't know. I wish I
you
had
somebody
something.
Do you try and like beat the jet lag, or do you just accept that you're going to be tired when
No,
you get there and try to get on it quickly? How do you beat jet lag?
that's a good one. No, if I'm on the plane, I'm gonna sleep. If I can sleep, I'm sleeping. Because we travel too much, I'm like, if I can sleep and just kill hours sleeping, I'm gonna sleep. I'm not gonna like torture myself, even if it's gonna mess up my jet lag. But when I get to a location, I have to, no matter what, the first night stay up till 9 p.m. I will not go to sleep before that, even if I'm like dying. But as long as I get to 9 p.m. the first night, and then the next morning I'll wake up at like 7 a.m. every time. I swear that's like the biggest actual travel hack is just make it to 9. You got to.
Okay. Duly
Yeah.
noted. Because I feel like
hmm
for me, the second night is always bad. Because the
Hard.
first night, I'm freaking exhausted. So, like, yes,
Yeah.
make it to 9. And then I wake up at 7. I'm like, oh, look at me. I've beat this. And then I get into bed on
Yeah.
the second night and I'm like, okay, it's 12 o'clock and it's 1 o'clock and
Yeah.
it's 2 o'clock.
Yeah. That's true. Night 2 is always harder. I
Yeah.
think then you just got to make sure you wake up. Like, you just got to get up.
Yeah. You just got to do
You're
it.
just like, hey, we're getting up at 7. And then, yeah, you're rolling.
And nothing
It's
like
hard.
a
I
polar
don't know.
plunge. I know. All
Nothing
right.
like
Well,
a
we'll
polar
keep
plunge.
searching.
That helps. Yeah. I don't know. I
Or the
wish I
first thing
had
in the
the answer.
morning. All right. We'll keep
Yeah.
developing it. You know, we've got a few more years on tour. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the next segment is called Something to Sip On. This is brought to you by the Sports Bra, which is the very first women's sports bar in the entire world, based in Portland, Oregon. So, Lakey, I got to know, what are you sipping on? After a heat win, after a warrior mode day in Western Australia, what are we sipping on?
Well, I usually have an 805 beer, but that's, that's just part of my deal. But I will say the day, if I'm gonna make a nice little bevy for myself, or that day actually after Margaret River, we went to dinner. It's always a margarita, just on the rocks with salt every time. That one never isn't good, honestly.
No,
So that's
a
me,
cold
through and
beer
through.
and a margarita. Cold
I'm a marg.
805 and a margarita.
Yeah,
It's a combo
yeah.
of champions, really,
It
for being
really is.
honest.
It really is. Yeah.
And then,
So.
Lakes, the last question I have for you is, this is the PowHERful Podcast, so we are all about highlighting incredibly powerful women like yourself. What is the moment, or when is the moment that you feel the most powerful, or what does powerful mean to you?
Oh, that's cool. I think when I feel the most powerful, probably in the moments that are the toughest to overcome, but you finally overcome them, is like when I feel the most empowered. So whether that's being super scared at Chopu, but then finally getting a wave and making it in that moment, you're like, yes, like that was so hard. Or just having that breakthrough event that you like worked and worked and worked and worked and worked and just didn't take no for an answer. Like that breakthrough moment when you just really don't feel like doing it one more time, or you're really scared to do it, but you do it, I think that's when I feel the most powerful.
I'm gonna absolutely agree to that.
Yeah.
I feel the other day I was surfing and it was a little big for me, which was like, all of 5 to 6 feet. And I took off on a wave a little like steeper than I normally take off. I'm working on my takeoffs. So I'm working on angling my
Yes.
takeoff and like getting better at steeper takeoffs. And I remember this
Yes.
wave coming out and I was like, oh dang, this is like, I'm kind of late. It's a little
Yeah.
big, but like I scooped my hand and I angled really hard and I took off and it
Yeah.
was like, oh, and I did it and I did a few little carves, and I got up and I
Yeah.
like finished the wave and I was like, I'm so proud of you. Like I said out loud
Yes.
in the lineup, I'm so
That's
proud of you.
cool.
And it's like those moments, they really are the ones where you're like, damn, that was powerful. Good job.
100%. That's so cool, AJ. We gotta go
Yeah,
surf.
it was-
Call me next time.
Here's my arm, twist it. But
I'll make you go on some scarier waves. You won't want to surf with me.
oh gosh. Yeah, I was gonna
I'll have
say, do
you
not
push
take
the
me to
edge.
trestles. We're not doing trestles. I'll go to churches with you.
No.
But we have to talk about, before I let you go, tell me about this viral moment at trestles. What, 2 weeks ago? We gotta break this down, Lakes, because it
Poor
about
guy.
broke the internet.
No, well, I mean, if you haven't seen my YouTube page, everybody go feel free to like and subscribe and check my video out if you want to know what we're talking about.
Best vlogs on tour, like 20 minutes.
No.
You're gonna get sandboarding in Abu Dhabi. You're going to get wine tasting in Margs. Like, you gotta go check out Lakey's YouTube.
That's true. I appreciate that. I don't know.
Tom.
Honestly, shout out Tom. He does everything. I don't even do anything, but he edits it all. But yeah, I don't know. The summers in California just seem to keep getting more and more chaotic and more busy and crowded with surfers and people out there. And yeah, I don't know. It's funny. I've had some solid like drop-ins in that over the years, but yeah, I had this, I don't know. I don't know if the guy even saw me, but you guys got to go watch the video for yourself. But I dropped in and then a guy dropped in on me, which is fine. It was like a 1 foot wave. I do not care. But then there was like this weird jumping action towards me that I wasn't really sure what was happening. But
it was so bizarre. I was like, are you falling? Are you falling or are you leaping at her? What is you guys gotta check out the video. It was a
That's
bizarre.
How I felt. I was like, what?
Yeah. Excuse me, personal space. Still get it out here in the ocean. Awesome. Well, thank you for being on here, Lakey. I'm so excited to get a chance to catch up with you. Cannot wait to see where you're going in the next years and on tour, in the water, out of the water. I just am a Lakey Peterson fan. So thanks for being on.
Thank you, AJ. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, and all the feelings are mutual. We love having you on tour. You're the best.
Thanks, Garrel. All right, PowHERful Pod Squad, we will see you next week. Have a good one.
This is a reminder to check us out every Tuesday, everywhere you get your podcasts. And if you really enjoy this and don't want to miss an episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button.